and in that math exam I got 3%. I think I got 3% because the teacher just didn't want to give me 0%. Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to do a story time. It's a very interesting and slightly bizarre story, but yeah, it happened to me. Thank you so much everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, shared. I really appreciate it. I just started this because why not? And so far so good. So thank you for coming on this journey with me. Today I actually want to talk about something that happened to me when I was a child and through my growing years, right? So I'll get right into it. I grew up in a town in northern Nigeria and I really loved school. So it was because of my parents. So my dad and my mom both really value education. So they sent us to like really good schools, and just there was a very particular kind of seriousness in our home around going to school, doing your work, doing your homework and so on. So I loved school. School was my happy place. I loved my friends. I liked everything about it. So I remember when I was in primary 4. So let's just say I was 8 in primary 4. And there was this girl that had come to my school. She was new. And when she came, she was bigger than the rest of us and she was older than the rest of us. So I remember that she kind of became like the ringleader. So there were these silly games we used to play during break time in school. And one day we were playing a game of like a pageant, like a Miss World game. So each of the girls, all of us girls, each of us was supposed to strut. So you strut, then you twirl, then you pose, and you do everything that we thought they did in beauty pageant. So we did that, and it was my turn. So I catwalked, twirled, strutted, whatever. At the end of the game, I won. So I became Miss World, right? So they crowned me Miss World. We had our own silly ceremony, and I was given the crown, and I sat down as a queen. I remember when it was this girl's turn now to go. So she went, did her thing, and then she won the next round. So I went to her and I was like, I was supposed to crown the new Miss World, right? So I took off my crown, I gave it to her, and she was crowned Miss World. When we were done with the game, I don't know why, but I asked this girl, I was like, give me back my crown. She was like, no, I've taken your crown, I've taken it forever. She said something really, really bizarre, and I was like, what? Like, I've taken your crown, I've taken it permanently, something, but I know in my 8-year-old mind, I was so confused, like, this is weird. What is this girl doing to me? Like, oh my God, am I going to make it in life? What's happening? Am I going to do well in school? And because I used to do really well in school, obviously because my parents just gave us a lot of attention with homework and everything we needed, right? And funnily enough, I never forgot that episode. Fast forward, I go to secondary school, and maybe it was a combination of going to boarding school too early. I was 10, being so far away from home, being extremely homesick, whatever it was, I don't know. But I know that when I went to boarding school, I struggled in school, so I didn't do well in school at all. We had this slang in school where if you failed something really badly or if you did really badly, people would be like, wow, you give me joy, you give me joy. Like, it's so bad, I can't but laugh. One time we had written a French exam and I had gone late to pick up my paper from class. I think they'd left the exam papers in our classroom, so you were meant to pick up your paper. By the time I went to pick up my paper, someone had written at the back of the paper, joy, J-O-Y, all caps, exclamation marks. Like, I had felt so bad, it was funny. I went through school, like 6 years of boarding school, just feeling very, very disengaged, especially with schoolwork. In other things, I was super engaged, I was super involved in the chapel, like school church. I was super involved with my friends and stuff. I had a happy life, but it was almost like there were two people. There was the me who was happy and engaged and having a wonderful time, and there was the me who I just never studied. I was completely, and I don't know where it started from, but I remember the very first time my dad saw my exam paper, my exam results after first term, and I had done so badly, and my parents didn't give out to me or anything because they just thought, okay, she's adjusting, it's boarding school, she's new, everything is new. But if there's one thing I know from that phase of my life, is that I felt like a dunce. I felt like my head couldn't hold any information. I felt like I didn't know anything, which was really funny because I used to do speech and debate. And in speech and debates, I used to do really well. So I used to represent the school across competitions, and yeah, so I love to speak. I've always loved speaking. I love communicating, but with schoolwork, zero. Bad. There was one time I remember my dad had come to pick me up from school and I got my results, and I was sitting with him in the car. Then I looked at the results. I don't know exactly what number it was, but in our class we were about maybe 90 to 93 kids broken into 4 different arms of the particular grade. And in that test, I had performed, I was the 5th from the bottom. So I was the 5th last. I'll fit to the last, whatever you call it. And it wasn't even new. I think by the time I was leaving school, I was just happy that I was leaving. I was just happy that that phase of my life was completely over, right? Then I went to A-levels, and in A-levels, I remember one time I did a math exam, and in that math exam, I got 3%. I think I got 3% because the teacher just didn't want to give me 0%, but we were doing something with vectors. It was like AS math in Cambridge level, Cambridge type school, and she gave me 3%. I just took my paper and I was so disengaged. Okay. But a few days later, she saw me on the corridor and called me and gave me a hug and asked me if I was doing well. I was doing okay. I remember I was sitting in chemistry class one time and I just stood up and I told the teacher I wasn't feeling well. But I stood up, took my bag, left class, and that was the last day I ever did chemistry, physics, biology. What's interesting now that I look back is I always knew I liked English. Right from when I was a child, I always did really well in English in comparison to my peers and in comparison to my performance on other subjects. But I always thought it was such a lazy thing. Like, why would I want to study English or study art or study subjects that weren't hard sciences? By the time I was in A-levels, my head had reset. So I walked out of that chemistry class, dropped biology, dropped advanced level math, and I sent my dad an email. And I told him, listen, I've changed my subjects, and yeah. My dad was like, oh, it's fine, do whatever you want to do, as long as you're happy. You know, when I went to history class, right, the second essay I wrote, the teacher didn't even know my name because I was new in the class and I had missed out a whole term because I was obviously in chemistry class. The second essay I wrote, I had the second best essay in a class of about 20 students plus. Keep in mind that I was new. It's very interesting to me because for the longest time, I kept trying to be a fish that was flying. I was so out of depth, out of interest. I had no business in the classes I had chosen to take. It makes me think about so many times when God has given you a particular gift, but you covet what another person has, or you care about what other people will say, so much so that you're completely blindsided to the goodness and the beauty that resides within you. Fast forward to university. I went to university. I was about to start doing subjects I didn't really like once again. So I remember I registered for economics class. I went to econ and you had to do econometrics and micro-econ. I just knew that this was not it for me. I wanted to take politics, to take literature, to take international relations. So the summer after my first year, right, I wanted to do an internship. And I had to put together a resume. I didn't have one, and I didn't have a major. I didn't have a major is like your focus. I didn't have that. So I just decided, I was like, what if I write English and international relations? I think you'll be fine. Literally, that's how I wrote English and international relations, which ended up being my double majors in college. You know, by the time I was graduating, I told God, I made a promise with God, and I was like, Lord, I'm going to study really hard because I felt like God had saved me. I was like, Lord, you've given me a second chance. I'm going to study really hard in school. All I ask you to do is when I finish school, please give me a job, give me a good job. Let's make a deal. Deal. I studied hard. I remember I was even overloading because I just wanted to get as many credits as possible and do well across board. Can you guys believe that in my final year, I ended up writing a thesis? I wrote a collection of short stories, and I remember when I went for my thesis defense, right? So your defense is usually really long, and then they take time to deliberate if you passed or not, if they'll give you the thesis, blah, blah, blah. I went for my defense. It was so chill. The professors were asking me questions. We just had a chat. Then they were like, okay, wait outside. I went outside, waited for like 10 minutes. And when my advisor came to call me, I was like, are you guys sure? Like, are you done? She was like, yeah, come back in. I went back in. They were like, oh, congratulations, you passed. We'll let you know what your grade was and so on. A few days later, I got an email telling me I was going to graduate with highest honors in English. It was such a big deal for me because for so long, I felt like an airhead. For so long, I felt like a dunce. For so long, I felt like I didn't know anything. Now getting to a place where I was doing well and I was thriving. So with regards to whether I got a job or not, with that same English degree, when I was doing my interview for my current job, my first job after graduation, I had 5 interviewers. One of them was the first manager I ever had. And in the interview, we were talking and he asked me what I was studying and I told him I studied English. We went on to talk about business, talk about just a lot of different things. I remember just feeling like, wow, that was such a good interview. It felt like it was a good interview because I was being authentic. I was being true to myself. I was studying what God had created me to study. I got the job, I moved on, and back to my story about the girl who had taken my crown and refused to give it to me. A few months ago, right, so I get a message and she's like, I don't know if you remember me, but we went to primary school together. I'm really struggling right now. Can you help me in any way? Do you have anything for me? Then at that time, I didn't have any money to send. So when I eventually got paid, I told my mom, send some money to my mom, and my mother did the entire transaction. One day I was on my bed, maybe just not too long ago, I was just on my bed meditating. I think I'd either woken up or I was trying to fall asleep. And I was meditating and just praying. And I was like, Lord, it's so interesting how after so many years, this girl reached out to me. Like, what's going on? It's been so long. And I was like, anyway, thank God I was able to help. Thank God I was able to give out of what I had. Do you know what I felt God saying to me? You've gotten your crown back. I was so overwhelmed in that moment, but I don't know, I couldn't understand exactly what the transaction had been, exactly what had happened. All I know is that in primary school, when I did really, really well, and I used to pass my exams, because my mom used to teach me herself. After school, every day she would sit down and teach me. When I had younger siblings, she got me a lesson teacher who used to teach me personally, right? She was so invested, like, oh my goodness. But now, almost, like 15 years later, at least 15 years later, hearing those words, you've gotten your crown back. I felt so, I don't know how to describe it, but I felt so overwhelmed. I felt so happy. I felt like, oh my goodness, there actually was something that was stolen from me. And wow, God had gone back in time, orchestrated something and made the connection back. Moral of this story I've told is, number 1, God sees and God cares. If you've lost something over your childhood or whenever it was, it can be restored to you. Number 2 is, go towards where you have been called. The gifts that you have are good enough. A man's gifts make room for him. Your gift is good enough. God knew that whatever He's calling me to do in the future, He wanted me to have good command of language. He wanted me to be able to write. He wanted me to be able to speak. Now, all those years I wasted trying to do chemistry, physics, biology that I had no business doing, it was a waste of my time. However, now it's turned into a testimony. But imagine if I actually did government, history, things I loved to do. It would be so different. But regardless of that, right, somehow God turned it around. The Bible says in Psalm 126 that when the Lord turned around the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dreamed. Wherever you are, whoever you are, if you feel like you lost something at some point in your life, God can restore it to you. If you're going where you're not called, if you're trying to be a fish when God has called you to be a bird, stop. It's not too late. Retrace your step, gain a level of self-awareness, and blossom where you have been planted. Bloom where you have been planted. You're too gifted, you're too special to try to be somebody else or to do things you have no business doing. That's my message for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed my story. One bizarre, the other one, I don't know. Probably a lot of you can relate. Let me know in the comment section what spoke to you. See you next time. Until then, stay blessed. Bye.